Hey there, everybody. Hope you're having a good day. I am also recording this right after the last one, um, so that way I could get all my thoughts together and out. So, anyway, the last video I mentioned I wanted to talk about the world and what that looked like with this game. The world that I was creating, what I realized was determining a lot of the factors of how I wanted dice to be rolled. For example, it was a world where technology was based off of dreams, and the world and society was built off of this ever-growing dream technology, which, I don't know, it's cool, and it's still being used, so I'm not going to go super much into it. I don't know, if there's questions, like, I don't know, you can ask. There's a comment section, do what you want. But anyway, I realized that, like, the 8-sided dice were because of me wanting to base it off of, like, the recommended hours of sleep. Again, nowhere near that, but that's a different problem. So yeah, I was basing off of that, and I realized the dice rolls were, like, just how complicated character creation was. The figuring out what dice rolls meant were also insanely complicated, to ignoring that first rule, keeping it simple. So, in short, this is what I had before, which if you people played like Blades in the Dark, you'll see some hinges of that. There was another one that, and a little bit of Shadowrun, if you are familiar with that dice system. So in short, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, I might have the notes here. Here it is. So let's see. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 options from these these d8s. As you said, you would roll a pool of d8s depending on how many points you had in your stats, and the max dice you could roll was 8 because I'm like, I want to keep it simple. Trust me, it doesn't get simple. So I'll start from I'll just go in order. And so in short, we have, if you rolled a 1 or 2, that was a nightmare roll, which means that's like a failure, and whatever you're trying to accomplish wasn't going to be done. Terror was if you rolled 3, if the majority of your dice were 3 and 4, which, hey, there's consequences, but the result is going to be more advantageous towards the, like, whatever conflict the player was trying to stop. I really hate this name, but I couldn't think of a better one. 5 and 6 is a daydream roll, which means it's a partial success, which means the scene or the whatever was trying to be accomplished would lean closer towards the player. Lucid, which is the majority of the dice are 7 or 8s, which means they succeed no matter what they're doing. Now, if the majority of your dice were all 8s from your pool, you got a Radiant, which means the player takes control of the scene and pretty much, like, runs it however they want. Or Umbral, which if more than half the dice are 1s, that means the GM, or since this was like a dream setting, the Weaver would take control of the scene. And then it was like, well, what if there's a tie, like, between 2 different things? Because if you roll 3 dice, there's a chance that you could, like, you roll 3 dice, you could potentially get 3 different of these options. And it's like, okay, well, then you gotta, like, re-roll them, and then it's like, okay, well, that is even more. It was just building and building and building, where it was just getting more complicated. And then there was stuff like about like, there's a grip thing, which is like kind of your sanity, because, like, yeah, the more you're introducing to this dream society, your grip on reality is going to be shaken. And then, like, lucidity, I'm just, like, scrolling through these notes, and it was just so complicated. And it's like the system I came up now, I'm like, I'm really interested of, like, play testing it. I'm hoping that at some point this year to have some form of play test. But, like, that was the old system, and people are like, well, what you said this was going to be about the world. That was the thing. This whole rule system, everything was based off of the world. Last week, this is January 24th, 2023. I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago. I had this idea spawn in my head where I was like, because as this new system and this reworking, like the beginning of this year, I had like an epiphany about the game and like stripping it down, making it simple, and being able to tell stories. Like one of the big goals, like I have 3 big like main goals. There might be more that I can't remember currently, but at the time of this recording, right now, the brain can remember 3 because it's almost 9 o'clock at night. I wanted to keep it simple, so that way, thank you, phone. I wanted to keep it simple so that way multiple people could pick it up really easy and play, but with a hint. But the second goal being, I keep forgetting whatever the second goal was. Oh, and it's like I wanted the skills to be flexible and be used in multiple situations, not just be set in combat or set in social situations only. The third big goal is I wanted this system to be able to tell multiple stories. And that's when I was looking at the system and looking at different things in here that I realized I'm like, there is a lot of really good things here. And what if I separated the world from the game system? I know there's plenty of things that do that. Like I'm not fully I don't fully understand it, but I think like Power of the Apocalypse system does stuff like that, where they have their core system and then they have like a whole bunch of people build like scenarios and like games around there. I'm not too familiar with that. I think the Cypher system is another one that does that, so it's not like I'm breaking new ground with this. But I was sitting there thinking about it. I'm like, these stats and the new system of how it's being rolled, and like even the new way like roles and figuring out successes and all that, and figure out scenes, you know, like this is going to be something. My game is something based off of scenes. I wanted it to be something that could reach multiple genres, and so pretty much there is still going to be that that sci-fi world, but then at the same time it's like this system and like the rules and I hit the mic stand, the everything would still work like in a pirate setting or like a fantasy setting. And that's what really got me excited, because I'm like, all that I need to do is change or create like booklets for this. For example, in the new system there is a thing called roots, which is like your upbringing, which I'll go into more later. Not this video, but a different video. And then there's a thing for occupations, like, or your training. And it's like, okay, well, no matter what setting, like, this dream technology is like a little bit of like a cyberpunkish setup. That those two things could be changed for pretty much any system, where it's just like, okay, well, we're gonna do a fantasy section. Okay, your roots is like your like I think Pathfinder calls it your ancestry, but yeah, it's like are you an orc? Are you a human? Are you an elf? I don't know. I'd probably come up with different words for it to keep it broad, because that's what I like to do. Because I like keeping things broad and having players and people have their hands in creating stuff. And so, but yeah, there's that, and then there's like different training stuff that people could come up with, and like different occupations that would all give you like different kind of stats and bonuses for that. And then age would also play into it. And I was like, it was one of those things where I just like, my brain was like, oh my goodness, there is so many worlds and stories and genres that could be now built with separating the world from the game. Like, they're still together, but the system is now going to be, I feel like it's going to reach a much larger potential. It's something I want to work on, where it's just like, I want them to have a map, I want them to have a list of NPCs, I want them to have a player or a GM could have this information about this world that they can quickly pick up and do, and then each like genre has its own special little thing that makes it stick a little bit out, a little bit different from the rest of them. Like, for example, the fantasy world, a concept that I always liked and never really saw it too much, and there's probably a bunch of stuff that I just don't know about, but it was like a scalable honor bar, and it's like, if you did honorable acts, like it built up, and like nobility and like people in cities would trust you more, like in the peasants. But then if it was getting lower, but like the thing is, like, criminals and all that stuff wouldn't trust you, but if your honor was low, the underbelly of society would be more willing to accept you, and you could get different bonuses with that. But nobility and like the townspeople would be untrusting of you. But that's something, just thoughts that I had. But like, when I got to that part, I was like, my brain was just like, oh my goodness, this is so exciting. And like, as you can tell, this is really where I'm getting excited, because it's the longest video. But we're gonna end it here. I think in the next couple of videos, I'm gonna share maybe, yeah, I think probably the wrestle system. Well, I want to work up to that, because the wrestle system is like literally a couple hours old. But at this point, probably when I recorded, it might be a little bit more. But yeah, in short, I wanted to share a little bit more, go into a little bit more about like roots and occupations, and what the like character sheet would entail. Because like, honestly, the neat thing is, like, even if nobody watches this, it's really helping me figure out how to communicate this game to people. But I don't know. I am truly excited to have like my friends and players from online. They know about this, and they've told me the little snippets I told about the game, and they're like, oh my goodness, I can't wait to play it. So that is it. Hope you all have a lovely night, and yeah, if you got questions or something that you think about the system, or something that didn't make sense, feel free to ask. Like, I'll answer it in the video or in chat or whatever. But yeah, you do you. Like, I can't tell you what to do, unless it's like, I don't know, eat a sandwich. Sure. See you.